Hello and welcome everyone. This is my updated version of the Heartseeker rogue build for Season 4. Have fun! So, the skill tree has changed a little bit, but not that much. Most of it is actually the same. But here we get 2 points into stutter step for more movement speed. And caltrops no longer use chill, but use crit chance because we can easily freeze enemies all the time. So we rather need the crit chance here. We also don't need the energy and the vulnerability part of concealment because we don't need energy, we don't use it, and we can proc vulnerability all the time. So we don't need those two. We got Arc Shroud here for more damage reduction and extra crit chance, which we will proc with our legendary aspect. And we use Smoke Grenade for the 25% multiplicative bonus damage for 4 seconds. And we can also reduce the cooldown a little bit here. So that's important. And the rest is basically the same. As a specialization and class mechanic, we use Inner Sight. When the gauge is full, we get 25% extra crit chance for 4 seconds, which is basically useful in comparison to the other remaining specializations. It's not much, but it helps a little bit. Okay, I made some changes to the Paragon board, so I no longer use this resist node because I already have enough in my current setup. And the first glyph that I use is Chip, for more additive damage and some multiplicative damage, and a little bit of extra damage from these nodes because I had these left. First board we pick, as always, is Cunning Stratagem. I still have these nodes because they give a nice chunk of additive damage. And as a glyph I use Ambush for the multiplicative bonus against trapped enemies, and we can trap enemies easily by spamming caltrops. And I refunded these resistance nodes because I no longer need them. Also these damage nodes because you get not really much from these, and it's only additive damage, so I think they are not really. Next board is Exploit Weakness. We pick the vulnerability nodes, of course, for our Victimize passive. And as a glyph I use Pride to boost the legendary node even further for more damage, and we get multiplicative physical damage against healthy and injured enemies. Then we get more vulnerable damage here. And also, of course, the legendary node for more damage. And here I picked some health and some cold rest to fix my cold resistance. Next board is Lyrunner's Instinct. And here I picked some resist nodes, get it to the cap, so I don't need extra nodes on the first board. And as a glyph I picked Ranger for a little bit of additive damage and the damage reduction, which is really helpful. I got some dexterity from this rear node and a little bit of extra damage when I dodge. So that's nice. Here I got some poison rest and life, some extra poison rest in order to get it to the cap. And here we pick the Deadly Ambush board. And of course the legendary node, because we can deal 23% multiplicative critical damage against trapped enemies. Again, we use caltrops, so that's easy to get. And this thing here double dips with our Victimize passive. So we get the damage twice, which is really useful. As a glyph, we use our Exploit glyph here because we get the most strength out of this board. That's why we pick strength over here, and a little bit of damage reduction against trapped enemies. We get all the strength nodes here as well. And the last board that's really good to get is Cheap Shot, especially because we get a nice chunk of damage reduction against elite enemies, multiplicative damage against crowd-controlled enemies, which is really easy to do with caltrops and all the freeze and daze chance we have. And as a glyph we use Control, which adds damage against crowd-controlled enemies and multiplicative damage. And the multiplicative part also double dips with Victimize. And we get a little bit more int here for more damage, of course, and a little bit more crowd control damage. And that's basically it for the Paragon board. Let's talk items. So on the helmet, I'm running an Undying aspect to heal myself, since my attack speed is quite high. That one is really convenient. It's probably not necessary, but I really like the convenience behind it. And I'm running Dex and Life on it, and also Lightning Res, because I had to fix my lightning resistance, and that's the only way. I tempered some dodge chance on it, and also freeze chance, which is really, really cool. On the chest piece, I'm running Frostbitten, which is more offensive. I could also run another defensive aspect here, but I decided to get this one, because I'm freezing enemies quite often, and the 25% extra crit damage are really nice to have. I'm also running Dex here, even a greater affix, which is really cool. Life and some armor to get to my armor cap. Also dodge chance again, and yeah, lucky hit chance to slow enemies, which is really effective against bosses and when it comes to staggering them. On the gloves, I'm running the Edge Masters aspect for more damage, since we never deplete our energy source that's basically active all the time. And of course we have Dex and vulnerable damage, some lucky hit chance. I only have marksman damage. I should have rolled vulnerable damage here, but it's a bit hard to get. And I have a lucky hit chance to immobilize. Again, that's really good versus bosses when it comes to staggering. On the pants, I'm running the Umbrus aspect to get Dark Shrouds when I critically hit enemies, which is really, really good. And I also have Dexterity, All Rest to fix my resists, and +4 to Heartseeker, which is really, really important. Also again, dodge chance and additional bonus to freeze chance. Also really useful. On the boots, yeah, I'm running boots with evade cooldown reduction. That's pick whatever you find here. It's not that important in my opinion. And as an aspect, I'm running concussive strikes for more damage against dazed enemies and dazed chance, and I can daze enemies easily all the time. And I also have also have dexterity, max life, and again dodge chance. So we have quite a lot of dodge chance on this character, and additional chance to daze and movement speed, which is really important. Next thing is the amulet. We are running Crowded Sage on this one, which is quite the defensive option, but I really love healing, in this case 27% of my max life when I dodge, and the bonus dodge chance also really nice. And I have life on it, and here's the crit chance and percentage bonus to armor in order to get to the armor cap. I'm a little bit below that, by the way. Okay, I gotta fix that by upgrading, where is it? This item and this item. This will basically fix the armor. It changed because I changed the Paragon board a little bit, but this is easily fixable. Anyways, and I rolled vulnerable damage on it and additional dodge chance. The ring is, has the rapid legendary aspect on it for more attack speed. Since attack speed got nerfed with the Season 4 patch, this is really, really good. And of course I have Dex again, life, crit chance. I rolled dash cooldown reduction, which is not the best, but it's better than nothing. And I rolled damage against distant. Probably flat damage is, or just damage is probably the best option. But I didn't want to reroll the ring, so I'm just running with this one. It's not perfect, but it's good enough in my opinion. Next ring has the adaptability aspect. It's not perfect. I'm still missing some damage, but it's good enough already. And we are also running life and some attack speed and vulnerable damage here. Here I managed to temper Caltrop cooldown reduction, which is really good. And we get some marksman critical strike chance as well, which helps. On to the weapons. Here I'm running Accursed Touch for the vulnerability chance. It's really, really good for this build, especially against bosses. And the sword has crit chance, and we are using swords, by the way, for the critical strike damage instead of daggers, which only give you damage against close, and I think critical strike damage is better overall. So this one has Dex, just damage, vulnerable damage via tempering, which is really cool. And I decided to go with an Elemental Surge temper roll here for extra damage. You could also replace this with like Caltrop size or Caltrop duration. The same goes for the second sword. I also have an Elemental Surge tempering roll on this one as well. But yeah, you can go with the Caltrop stuff here if you want. And as an legendary aspect, I have Retribution for more damage against stunned and knocked down enemies, and thanks to our passive in the Skilltree, we can knock down dazed enemies with crits, so that happens all the time. We're also running Dex on here, damage with greater affix, vulnerable damage, I already mentioned the Elemental Surge, and some crit damage. And the ranged weapon. I think a crossbow is probably the better option, but I decided to go with a bow because I prefer them, because they look cooler in my opinion. They're also a bit faster, so when it comes to the undying aspect and the self-heal, you will heal yourself a little bit faster with that one. And you will, in longer fights, you will proc lucky hits stuff more often because you attack faster, but in the end I think crossbow is still a little bit better than the bow. And we are using Moonrise on the bow as a legendary aspect, of course, because it gives us a crap ton of damage, and I have Dex on it, life, vulnerable damage, also damage against distant, but I cannot reroll it, so it's better than nothing. And unfortunately I critically masterworked the Heartseeker projectile chance twice, which is overkill. 100% would have been enough, but you can't have everything, it seems. And as gems, I'm using vulnerable damage gems, and as you can see, I don't have the perfect gems yet because it's quite hard to get them. There's a diamond in this one, and yeah, some other gems here to basically fix the resists, and I'm using rubies in the equipment. I also don't have the best rubies, so with those I would even get more health, but well, so far it is what it is. Okay, let's have a quick look at my stats. We have quite a lot of Dex, which gives us damage and dodge chance. Resists are max, of course. We have some attack speed. 36% crit chance, and there's a lot of crit chance we get from Caltrops and Heartseeker and the Dark Shroud. So it's way more than that. Plus we have the Specialization that gives us another 25%, so we can basically get to 100% crit chance temporarily when the Specialization thingy procs, and otherwise we can easily get to like almost 80% or so. Lots of damage things here that are not important, and here's a little bit of damage reduction against elites, close, against trapped, and yeah, here's our dodge chance. We could get that one even higher if we used a incense, and if we had we have this legendary aspect that gives us 8% dodge chance. There's another one that gives us 8% and fortify when we dodge, so we could easily get this over 70% if we wanted. But I decided to go a little bit more offensively with the frostbitten aspect here instead of the other dodge chance aspect, because I needed more damage. But feel free to swap this one out for the defensive option. And yeah, a little bit more movement speed, some lucky hit bonus, and here all the proc chances listed. When it comes to elixirs, the armor elixir and the cost reduction elixir are usually the ones that you should avoid, because you actually get to max armor easily, and we don't use any ability that costs resource, so these are more or less useless to us. All the others basically give us something that we can use. I mean, crit chance is useful. I personally prefer attack speed and lucky hit chance. You could also go with life, you could go with the seasonal elixir for movement speed, and of course the one with the holy bolts that is really nice for clearing. And there's another one that gives us vulnerable damage and overpower damage. Even that one is kind of useful, but I prefer attack speed and lucky hit chance. Now this here is a level 75 pit, which is still quite comfortable for farming, and beyond that it's getting harder and harder. I'm currently stuck at level 89, and in order to get that one down I probably need fully upgraded gear to have a chance, because now I just get one-shotted by random things. and I don't have enough damage to burst things down quickly enough. And the bosses also give me a lot of trouble. I think it sometimes depends also on the map layout and the monsters that spawn, and it also depends on the boss and the boss mechanics that you get. Some of them are way easier than others, and that can either make or break it for you. When you face groups with purple champions in it, always try, of course, to focus them down first, and sometimes it's a good strategy to approach them while being in stealth, so you get a good angle on them and kill them quickly before the other mobs can surround you and deal significant damage to you. Also, watch out for elites with the suppressor affix. That's this fancy little bubble they have, because you can't harm them from outside the bubble. And one way of dealing with that is, of course, going into melee, hitting them and crowd controlling them, then they drop the bubble. And the other way of doing that is by throwing a smoke grenade at them, which dazes them, crowd controls them, and therefore they also drop the bubble, and then you can do damage to them. So in boss fights, I usually start by just dealing damage to the boss and filling its dagger bar to a certain point. Then I usually try to dodge the first boss damage mechanic that is dropped down onto you, and then I use dash and caltrops to fully stagger the boss, followed by an ultimate and the smoke grenade, and then I deal as much burst damage as I can during the stagger window. So when it comes to Uber bosses, I didn't have the time to test Duriel or Indaria, and I don't have enough stones to test out Beast and Ice, so I only did Gregoire and Zir, and those were actually quite easy. I'm only having trouble with Lilith because I cannot burst her down like I used to do, so I need to deal with the waves, and I'm simply too stupid to dodge them. So experienced players can still kill her. If you can't deal with the waves, then I think it's very hard to get her down. And that's it. Thanks for watching my build guide. If you like this build and what I'm doing, feel free to like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, just ask them in the comments below. I usually try to answer as many of them as I can. So, enjoy Season 4 and have a nice day. Bye bye!